What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late Monday afternoon. Heard from Mike McCarthy, Dom Capers, Edgar Bennett, Ron Zook, and now got to hear from you guys. See what's up, see what's on your minds after the Packers' overtime victory against the Buccaneers that keeps their playoff hopes alive. Thought I'd jump on, see what's up with you guys. Steve, hello, thanks for joining us. Robert, you're not first. That was Steve. Tyler, hello, how are you? James, good day. It's nice to see you all. Another James with a different spelling. Very nice. Fair to say the biggest victory was the coin toss? That's very well put, Christopher. It's definitely the luckiest outcome they had all day. Who knows if they would have been able to stop them in overtime had the Buccaneers gotten the ball. It didn't look good in that regard, but I think fortuitous would be the word I'd use in regards to the winning that coin toss and driving that ball down the field for the win. Fire everyone, including yourself, says Bryce. Thank you for joining us, Bryce. I'm going to decline your offer, but I thank you for making it. Should McCarthy give up play calling? He seems inconsistent at times. No, I don't think he's going to give up play calling anytime soon. He said after the Tom Clements episode that he would never give it up again, so I think the only time you're going to see Mike McCarthy not calling plays in Green Bay is when he was shown the door. That said, he is having kind of, I'm not going to say trouble. I'm saying he's struggling to find a rhythm with his quarterback, with Brett Hundley under center. There's no doubt about that. You can't deny it. Week in and week out, we see the script work pretty well. The opening thoughts, as he calls them, the opening 12, 15 plays, those seem to do well, and then as the game progresses and teams start to make adjustments and he is trying to find a rhythm with his offense, he certainly does seem to be searching. And I did think in the second half he really got away from what was working in regards to pounding Jamal Williams and using his running game as a battering ram. Because let's face it, I just don't think that Brett Hundley is up for slinging it around the yard and carrying this offense. I just don't think that's how this team is going to be able to move the football and win football games. But, McCarthy obviously has things that he sees during the week in their scouting and their preparation that he thinks he can take advantage of. For whatever reason, it's just not clicking. But then what's funny is that at the end of the game, when they have a drive, whether it was in Pittsburgh, when they had that 12-play, 77-yard drive to tie it up, whether it was the overtime drive yesterday, there are times when the pressure gets ratcheted up and they've got to focus in. They seem to be good for a drive at the end of every game, much like they're good for that opening drive of every game. It's everything in between that seems to be a real issue. Breaks my heart, but I don't think 10-6 will get us in the playoffs this year. There's so much to play out at this point. Why would you even bother thinking about it? I buy in what McCarthy talks about. Until you get to 10 wins, it doesn't even matter. It's all a bunch of hot air. All sorts of people need to lose. All sorts of people need to have things happen with the outside football teams that have nothing to do with the Packers or who they're playing. Sure, you can watch it unfold, but they got a lot of football left to play. And 10-6 gives them a decent chance. And I'm not saying it's automatic, but it's a pretty decent chance. If they go 10-6, the people that need to have lost along the way for that to happen, including Detroit and Carolina, it gives them a pretty decent shot, and that's all you can ask for at this point. A win is a win now. Now that it's December, don't care how it's done. I absolutely agree. Clock management, all in caps with lots of question marks. Not quite sure what you're referring to there, other than in a general sense. I would say, if you're talking about the end of the game, I think it's pretty clear he was playing for overtime. Situationally, you're not going to ask Brett Hundley to push the ball down the field, and if you are, you're probably in for a world of hurt. I thought McCarthy was pretty smart about how he attacked that at the end of the game. Hey, Joan, how are you? The equation is easy. Win. I like it. Did Taysom Hill learn his coverage skills from Jeff Janis? Yeah, how about Taysom Hill there on special teams for the Saints? Pretty impressive. Adams needs an extension. Thoughts? Yes, he does. Will it be in Green Bay or someplace else? That's the question. Hello from Bucharest. Well, hello, the other side of the world. How are you? We not going to the playoffs this week year. That's a possibility. It's also possible they will go to the playoffs this week here. Did I say that right? Do you expect the Packers to play more read option again Sunday? Yeah, Rye, sorry. Yeah, I think it's their best bet moving the football. And what's interesting is you saw Hundley really take advantage of that. Keep was open all day, and he finally used it to really good effect at the end of the game. And you have to think teams are going to start preparing for that a little bit more. That's going to open up that end who's going to want to keep an eye on that quarterback, and that should open up a cutback lane for the running back. But yes, I think they absolutely have to continue to develop it. It's something that's in their playbook. They've actually run it with Aaron Rodgers before, but yeah, I think you'll see more of it. I don't think they'll ever be a predominantly read option offense, but I do think they're going to have to continue to use it as much as they can. Injury report: the only injury of note yesterday, as far as guys who couldn't finish the game, was Jake Ryan with a neck injury, and McCarthy had no update on him today. It sucks we turned Montgomery into a running back, and now he's hurt. We have to draft 2 really good backs. Montgomery better come back as a wide receiver. Not necessarily. I think they'll continue to use him as kind of a slash player. He'll be another Randall Cobb, really, a less expensive one, really. But he's still valuable, and he can still do all the things they want him to do, whatever you want to call him, whether you want to call him a running back or a wide receiver. They're going to utilize his skills, and he'll be an asset for the offense. Andrew asks, is it a close game this week? Yeah, probably. I don't think we've seen anything out of the Packers to suggest that they're going to blow anybody off the field, especially a Cleveland Browns team playing at home that has a pretty darn good defense. That's what no one really talks about, at least nationally, that, yes, the Browns haven't won a game, but they have a really good defense. So, yeah, I absolutely suspect it will be a close game. What's the difference waiting for OT timeouts with 140ish left in regulation? Because with 140 in regulation, I'm sorry, your question did fly by a little fast, so I didn't get all of it, but 140 in regulation, obviously you're up against the clock, and you're pretty, I can't remember exactly what yard line they were on, but they were, significantly on the minus side of the 50. With Hundley, do you really want him pushing the ball downfield and trying to make throws towards the sideline when the defense knows you have to go towards the sideline, and knows you're in the 2-minute situation? The guy's already thrown a pick on the day, and he's not shown exactly. That's his strong suit, so to speak. When you're trying to gain yards, you're trying to push the ball downfield. And, playing for overtime, playing for a possession where the entire playbook is open to you, rather than having to force a 2-minute drive that could or could not be successful, and could potentially end in disaster. I just don't hate the decision. Please meet me at Let Love In this week to talk third down defense. Yeah, well, I'm in town for 3 whole days, so maybe. At least look for a PI call on a deep ball. But what if it's an interception? So I don't understand. What have you seen from Brett Hundley to tell you, yes, I want to be aggressive? Because I haven't seen anything from Brett Hundley. Now, maybe a screen pass that busts open, but I definitely don't want to be pushing the ball deep with Hundley. You people mystify me. I think there are players on defense to turn it around, to limit the yards given up on screens. Chad, I asked both Dom Capers and Mike McCarthy about it today. And I actually think they did a better job as the game went on defending the traditional screen, where, the offensive line holds for a second and then goes, and the back, kind of delays for a second and then leaks out. They did a better job as the game went on. You saw both Martinez and Ryan have nice stops out in space to stop screens in their tracks. But what's really killed them is those slip screens on the outside, especially when a running back lines up on the perimeter. They've been gashed repeatedly since basically the Saints game. Teams have followed that blueprint for about a month now. And, there's obviously mitigating circumstances all the time, like every play is different, etc. But the one common denominator is that particular concept has just destroyed them on 3rd and long. And, Capers gave me some nice lip service about needing to mix and match zone, man, eyes on the quarterback, the fact that, the quarterback can get the ball out of his hand real quick, etc. But, and McCarthy, at least was forthcoming in saying that the Buccaneers got way too much production out of the screen game yesterday. But that said, I don't see much changing. I just think it's a good call against a fire zone team, which the Packers are, and teams are going to continue to take advantage of that. And until guys can win out in space, teams are going to continue to go to that well for as long as it's successful. And until somebody demonstrates either a safety, a corner, somebody on the perimeter demonstrates that they're going to, recognize it and blow it up. If you're an offensive coordinator, I would call it 5-6 times a game. Can the Packers beat the Vikings even with Rodgers back? Ben, yes, of course they can. Will they? I'm not so sure about that. But the capacity to do it is definitely there. No question. Steve Tate is watching. Steve the Owner Tate, we are joined by a Packers fan luminary, everyone. So say hi to Steve in the comments. But yes, Ben, they absolutely can beat the Vikings. Again, will they? That's a whole other world. But I don't think there's any question that with Rodgers kind of looming over everything, it's interesting to just watch that kind of dynamic played out. Rob Domofsky of ESPN asked McCarthy about potentials for distractions this week because they are facing a team that has not won a game, and there will be a lot made of that. And then you couple that with Aaron Rodgers and the fact that he is practicing again, but he's not playing. But they need to win this game to have any kind of shot at a playoff scenario, and that would require Rodgers coming back. So this game, it builds up and it builds up. And Rodgers is going to be part of that kind of distraction this week. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they navigate those waters, so to speak. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I don't know who that could be. Anyway, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they navigate it. And, when it comes to that Browns game, like I said, they have a very good defense. The Packers are going to have to be on their game. They've just got to limit what they ask Brett Hundley to do. It's something that Tom Silverstein and I talked about after the game. It's in our video. If you check PackersNews.com, you'll see. As little as they can ask Brett Hundley to do, that's the path they have to go down. Let's see. Why do the Packers secondary continuously go into a soft zone and give up 10 to 15-yard passes? Donnie, I wish I knew. I put one up on Twitter this afternoon, and it seems to always happen on second down. Whenever they get a tackle for loss or a sack on first down to put opposing teams in second and long, you can bet your mortgage that Dom Capers is going to call a zone play with a 4 or 3-man rush on second down. It happens almost like clockwork every single time. And, I guess it's a philosophical thing. I guess he's trying to limit long gains and trying to limit the chunks that they take, but teams seem to take what they want in those situations. I mean, the Bucs had a 2nd and 19 yesterday. They picked up 19 on second down. It's bewildering. It's funny because I remember Fritz Shermer doing similar things, but he wouldn't do it all the time. But he would very much maybe get a sack or something, a loss on first down, and then occasionally call another blitz or another pressure call. Dom almost never does that, and it's baffling as to why. Will Capers be gone even if they win out this year? We'll see, Michael. I tend to doubt it. We'll see. Is Dom Capers' defense too predictable? Sean, I think so. I think coordinators, the best coordinators around the league, have definitely caught on to tendencies and how he likes to use his personnel, and they come up with game plans that counter that. Now, obviously, some of it is talent, some of it is the fact that they don't really have a frontline pass rush. They have to blitz to get home. Although yesterday, obviously, they took advantage of a substandard offensive line, which is why you saw so many sacks. But down in, down out, game in, game out, there are real kind of deficiencies there that Dom is trying to overcome. Now, that said, you're judged by what you put between those white lines and what gets put on tape. And, this has been going on for a long time now, whatever the talent is. So, yeah, it's hard to keep justifying the defensive scheme and Dom Capers running it. But the only one that needs to be convinced is Mike McCarthy, and he has time and time again said, talked about his respect for Dom, and he's continued to bring him back throughout the years with, through all the ups and downs. So maybe loyal to a fault there. Ty should move to tight end, yes or no? Chris, no. He's not built for tight end. I mean, he gets banged up all the time now. What do you think is going to happen when he goes in line and has to block, defensive ends? What do you think of the booing? Well, we've talked about it here before. I've been reprimanded for my stance on it by fans, by a certain section of the fan base. I think it's really silly. I think I don't understand what people get out of it or what they expect to happen when they do it. Look, my favorite team is playing really poorly. I will boo them. That will certainly turn things around. It makes no sense to me. None. Why doesn't somebody make Hundley spit out the gum? Because he likes the gum. And, well, not doing anybody any harm. Except for you, apparently, in your living room. The Steelers do a good job of disguising who's blitzing. Why can't the Packers do the same? I agree that their disguise is lacking. And I think Dom does way too much where he sends safeties from way deep. It's interesting because time and again, especially against the better quarterbacks in the league, whether it's a Ben Roethlisberger or Matt Stafford, whoever, those quarterbacks do a great job of getting the Packers to declare, you've seen Rodgers do it week after week, where they will get a declaration. They'll see, they'll have a dummy count and they'll see where guys are lined up and where they're coming from, and then they'll adjust protection and away they go. I just think they don't do a very good job of, if they get caught, where a QB gets them to declare, they need a call to, okay, get out of that, go to cover two, go to two-man, whatever. And for whatever reason, they just, either they don't do it or they don't have a guy to do it. They don't have a guy they trust to do it. That is one of the big weaknesses, I think, with Dom's defense. I'm heading to the game this week, and I sure hope I don't see their first win. Todd, you could be there. You could be there when the Browns get their first win of 2017. It could happen. Why do so many people care about the gum? Mitchell? That's a great question. I don't know. I admit it fascinated me when he first started playing this year, and I was chewing it all the time, and I thought, that's different. But that's what he does. Talk to him about it. He actually says it's getting worse because it really kind of gives him a rhythm and calms him down, but it's what he does. Dom blames the pass rush not getting home when they get torched. I think it'll finally be his downfall. Possible. Can I meet you at the Vikings game in a few weeks, sir? Andy, I'm always about. Give me a shout on Twitter. I thought mouth guards were mandatory. Nope, they are not. Does Josh Gordon get 150 plus yards receiving this week? No. It's a nervous habit. Oh, you're talking about the gum. Probably. Oh, crazy, going to beat the Browns. Go, Pack, go. Aaron from Cali. What's up? How you doing, Jim? Can Josh Gordon go over 100 against us? Over 100? I think that will happen, yes. Where did Josh Jones go? Dante, that's a great question. I was watching him today, watching the game again, and it's interesting. You look back, like this past summer, spring, summer, and he was such a physical force. He was really eye-popping as far as how he was so physical. His physicality jumped off the field. And then, the season started, and you get to week 3, that Cincinnati game. He really affected a lot of plays in that game. He was really kind of a force, especially near the line of scrimmage. And you thought, oh, they got something here. But for whatever reason, as the year has gone on, he has really disappeared. And I don't know if it's what they're asking him to do. Maybe he's being asked to do too much. I know Darren Perry early in the year had said, his head is kind of swimming. There is a lot. They are asking him to do a whole lot. But yeah, he looks late. He looks confused. He looks hesitant sometimes. And that's no way to play defense in the NFL. And this is a guy who was blowing people up this summer. And for whatever reason, that has all gone away. And I think part of it is, rookie guy, first year, maybe hitting the rookie wall a little bit, and his head is swimming. And, that's why they like to bring guys along slowly, because you ask them to do so much, and That's when mistakes happen. Why did we abandon the run at the start of the second half? McCarthy play calling is frustrating. Yeah, I talked about it a little bit before the start of the video. I agree that abandoning the run, I mean, they had 4 yards rushing in the third quarter yesterday. That's unbelievable when you've got a guy like Jamal Williams back there. Now, I know McCarthy wants to lessen the load, so to speak, on Jamal, and he doesn't want to, drive him into the ground, but you've got Ripkowski. You've got Devontae Mays, who, obviously they don't trust because of the fumbles, but you've got other options. You got Aaron Jones back for the first time since his injury. And I understand you don't want to use him too much coming off the injury, but if he's good to go, and his doc says he's all right, then use him at least for a series or something. But I agree, the start of the second half was perplexing, to say the least. That's where one of those times where it looks like McCarthy just thinks he's got something he doesn't. And I just don't think that's what you should be asking Hundley to do. Rex Ryan isn't better than our DC? I'm not so sure I agree with your police work there. Dean Lowry, take a step or a fluke game? I don't think it's a fluke game. I think he's a good player. I think, he had a lot more production. Some of that probably obviously is circumstantial, with right place, right time on the fumble recovery. I thought he did a great job when he was let loose. He didn't hesitate. He didn't think, should I stop and cover the screen or should I get after the quarterback? He went right for the QB on the sack. They were trying to set up the screen. Clay did a good job of holding up the running back, one of those plays that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but is really heady and really smart from a veteran that, everyone says, Clay's terrible. But, there's a really good play from Clay that nobody's talking about. I think Lowry took advantage of the opportunities that were there. And that's what you want to see from a second-year guy. He's definitely been up and down this season, but I thought it was a good game from him overall. Will the defense give up 400-plus yards to Cleveland? I'm going to say just under. 50 still misses a lot of tackles. Yes, David, he most certainly does. It's a shame that we have the greatest QB in the league and Ted Thompson has failed to build a team around Aaron. The rest of the Packers are just mediocre. I definitely don't agree with that. I think they're struggling with their quarterback. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think the rest of them are mediocre. David Bakhtiari's not mediocre. Mike Daniels isn't mediocre. Hell, Clay Matthews isn't mediocre. Morgan Burnett isn't mediocre. McAdoo is offensive coordinator. Adam, I don't see that happening. Defense is still killing this team. In spots, most definitely. Limit Hundley. It seems they did this backwards. Start out very limited in the first game as a starter and then give him more. That's kind of what they did. They totally hit him in that Saints game. They've been trying to open it up as they go along, but I just don't think Hundley can handle it for the most part. Jordy will be fine when Rodgers returns. Amy, I think he'll be more productive. I didn't like what they were asking him to do yesterday with all that stuff on the line of scrimmage. The short pass stuff, I think that works much better through Randall Cobb. Jordy's clearly lost some of his suddenness as an athlete. He's still a crafty route runner. His bond with Rodgers will get him, production when Aaron returns. But, I wasn't enamored with what they were trying to do there yesterday. Will we see more Geronimo? Steven, I think I would if I'm – it's funny, too, because it's clear that, this summer Hundley and Geronimo had a clear connection. And you would think they would want to get him on the field more just to have a guy that he's more comfortable throwing to. But – there's a hierarchy, and you're going to use Nelson, and I get all that. But Geronimo's wide open on that touchdown, or it should have been a touchdown. Hundley just misses him. So I would think so. I would do it if I was the coach, but Geronimo has shown flashes before and hasn't equated into more playing time. Heck, we're coming off a game where Randall Cobb didn't see a ball, so it's hard to justify getting Allison on the field when you're struggling to distribute, catches to guys who are your frontline starters. That said, they got to convert some third downs. They had 55 plays yesterday, so there's hardly any opportunities for guys to get on the field and make plays when they're continually having to punt. So that starts with that, getting more plays. Do we keep Hundley as the backup next season? Good question, Ben. I tend to think so. What I think will happen is they will watch the progression of Hundley throughout the year, and they will deem the fact that they probably can't get a draft pick for him at this point. He's played too poorly, but he is entering that Matt Flynn zone where he's probably more valuable in Green Bay than anywhere else in the league, and he's under contract for one more year. I think somewhere around $400,000-$500,000. So keep him for that last year and have him as your backup. You've shown that you can at least operate the offense with him. Now, you're not going to score a ton of points, but hopefully he can get you through a spell. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with all this, but I think that's going to be their thinking. And yeah, I think there's a good possibility. Now, that said, that doesn't preclude them bringing in competition. I think that's a real possibility as well. But that's a lot. That's way down the line. They got to beat the Browns first. Big mistake letting Hill go to the Saints. Well, they didn't let him go. They tried to get him onto the practice squad. Saints just stole him. You know, it was definitely risky, and it was, the third quarterback. I don't know. I know everyone is so enamored with everything he did in the preseason, but making a couple plays with your legs against third and fourth stringers doesn't exactly mean you're ready to step in and play in McCarthy's offense when Rodgers goes down. What did Hill do this weekend? Oh, Matt, he was playing on special teams for the Saints. He made a couple tackles. Excited to see 12 with its running game. He absolutely should be. I think what will be interesting is how much McCarthy wants to ride that running game with Rodgers in there, or how much Rodgers lets him. I mean, with his power at the line of scrimmage, as far as the ability to change plays. I think they have to continue down the path they have with Jamal Williams. I mean, especially with a guy coming off of a shoulder injury, you want to limit what you're asking him to do, limit the exposure to hits that obviously are going to come up. What better way to do that than to ride that running game and use Rodgers on third downs when you need conversions, but for the most part, try and make it happen on the ground. I think it makes a world of sense. And then if teams start to, gear up to stop the running game, well, then guess what? You've got Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, that will be interesting. But that's 2 weeks away. I still got to beat the Browns. And with that, I'm going to leave it. So sorry if I didn't get to your questions. A ton of people here, a ton of questions. You guys are great. Thank you so much for just for taking some time and checking it out. And make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all the latest. We'll have everything here from Lambeau all week long leading up to the game on Sunday in Cleveland. I'll be back on Facebook on Wednesday and Thursday. In the meantime, check PackersNews.com. Talk to you later. Have a good night.